everyone. I'm John Evans. Welcome to episode 1 of season 9 here on the One-on-One with John Evans podcast. So glad you could join us as we kick off 2025 with our guest, Ashley Bissette Sumerel. Now, Ashley has one of the coolest jobs in Wilmington. She watches television and then writes about it. She reviews network shows and streaming shows, and then writes reviews for the website she founded called Telltale TV. You've heard of the website Rotten Tomatoes? Ashley writes for that website as an approved critic. You've heard of Rolling Stone magazine? She's written for that publication as well. And get this job of writing and talking about TV is only part-time. Ashley's full-time job is as a senior lecturer at UNC Wilmington, where, among other things, she teaches students how to be better writers. Ashley Bissette Sumerel, welcome to the One-on-One with John Evans podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I love talking about TV, so anytime.
Well, you're an expert in it, and I must say before we get started, anytime my wife and I are in need of a new program to watch, I go to your website.
Really?
Because I figure you're up on it, and one of the top 10 you had for 2024, Shrinking, we just binged. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the best thing on television right now.
Yes.
What do you think?
I love it. It's so smart. It's so funny. It has so much heart. And my husband and I would talk about this too, that the characters on that show they're so specific. They're so well-rounded and unique. Yeah. But yes, I wholeheartedly agree. That's one of the best shows on right now.
And my wife will say several times, she'll say, I love that character, just like you said. And it reminds me a little bit of Scrubs, the writing. Mm-hmm. The writing is so tight, and the lines are just so one-off, much like Scrubs was. Mm-hmm. And it's a reminder to me of that kind of genre, but Harrison Ford does a great job. I mean, it's just fantastic from top to bottom.
Yeah.
It's just a great show. What do you think rivals it? What are your favorite shows on TV right now?
Well, I mean, Shrinking is, as you said, I did a top 10 list for 2024. That was up there.
Yeah.
A newer one that I wouldn't say it rivals it, but that I really enjoyed was A Man on the Inside with Ted Danson on Netflix right now. It's got the same kind of quirky humor, but the heart, the emotion, that kind of stuff. I feel really terrible saying I haven't watched the new season of Severance yet, but Severance is one of the best shows I've seen ever, maybe? That's a bold statement, but it's excellent.
Do you like Landman? Are you a fan?
I like it. Okay. It's probably not in my wheelhouse as much as some of the other things, but I have watched a few.
Now, you are a veteran of television, and you've written about it for so many years. Mm-hmm. What constitutes a good television show? I know that's a loaded question because there's billions of people on this earth and everybody has their own favorite.
Yeah.
But when you sit down, what does it have to deliver? Funny? Does it have to deliver emotion if it wants to be a drama? What makes it a good show in Ashley's mind?
That is a loaded question. I mean, I think it has to be thoughtful, right? It has to have some substance to it. I don't like the kind of humor that's just silly for silliness' sake if it's a comedy. I think having a balance of some humor, and like I said with Shrinking, there's a balance of some humor and some heart there.
Right.
But I think the writing has to be thoughtful, and I think the characters have to be really good, well-rounded characters. I hate watching a show where, characters are just really one note. And we don't get to dive into them. We don't get to know them that well. So I think that is a lot of it. I also think there's a real difference between shows that are on streaming and cable where you get, 6, 8, 10 episodes.
Right.
They have so much more time to spend on what they're doing, and they have the bigger budgets and things like that. Versus, I'm a Grey's Anatomy fan at my core. And what they can do when they're working so hard and they're putting out 22, 24 episodes a year,
right,
and they're still keeping it going and they're still keeping people engaged, that's a whole other thing that I think is, it's like two different types of television.
The Grey's Anatomy, the Law and Order SVU, the original Law and Order, some of those series that just went so long, you have to really salute those folks for not getting stale, number one, but continuing to, whether you bring it in from today's headlines or whether you delve into a character in a different way than you ever have before. And I think Grey's Anatomy's done a great job with that.
Yeah. I mean, it comes full circle constantly. It just did 21 seasons, and they did some nods back to season 1 that were, I thought, really smart.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about Telltale TV.
Okay.
How do you and the folks over there decide what show you're going to write on, or what reporter is going to get Ted McGinley, or what reporter is going to get the interview with this guy or this person? How do you decide that?
Well, first of all, everyone who writes for me is wonderful. I have a really great team. Allison Nichols, who's my managing editor, who, lives on the other side of the country. And, we've, been friends for a while now because of working together this way. And so she handles the scheduling for who's going to do reviews of what shows and things like that. But we really make those decisions on who's interested in what.
Oh, really?
And, there's a hierarchy too, but it starts with, what do you guys want to write about?
Yeah.
What shows do you care about? Which I think is important. It's maybe part of why we're still going, because that's what they want to be doing. This isn't a big website. I mean, it's, in some ways it is, but this is a side hustle, for me and for everybody else that's involved in it. So they want to be doing what's fun.
Yeah.
As for the interviews, honestly, I mean, it pretty well goes through me. This happens in two ways. Sometimes we get pitched. A publicist will, send me an email and say, hey, we've got so-and-so. Do you want to talk to this person? If it's someone that I'd like to talk to, I usually take them. I mean, let's just be honest,
Sure. Right. Just privileges. Yeah.
I mean, Ted McGinley, that was a great one.
Yeah.
Spoke with Tim Allen.
Yep. I saw that too.
recently,
Yeah.
Which, was, I mean, that's, who doesn't know who Tim Allen is?
Right.
And then for others, if I'm interested and if I have the time, I will, or I'll, open it up and say, okay, who's interested? And then if, a few people on the team are interested, it goes to who's, kind of higher up, who's been doing it the longest, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The other way this works is sometimes we reach out to people and beg.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've been there. I do the same thing. Sometimes, often with these interviews.
Yeah. I mean, and you just
that's
have
not
to ask.
that's not easy either.
No. And you're usually going to get a no or a silence.
Yes. have gotten that many a time.
Yeah. But sometimes you just gotta throw it out there.
And I think that as you, and Telltale TV's been around now more than a decade, so salute to you. 11 years now.
Thank you.
But I think as you build your reputation, and I want to talk a little bit about some of the notoriety that you've received. I think if you build that, then somebody's going to say, oh yeah, I remember Ashley Telltale. Yeah, let's get my guy to do this interview or that interview. And that helps a lot too, does it not?
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's connections, with the publicists. I mean, that's who you have to be friends with. You have to connect with those people, and then I mean, that's how it builds. That's how you get the opportunities. You
guys will review, and you along with recommending, you review seasons, you review films and stuff like that. Do you have to walk a delicate balance if you want publicist A, B, and C to give you another client on down the road? I remember, and the reason I ask is I remember Siskel and Ebert from years and years ago. They didn't care.
Yeah.
They didn't care what they said, and they didn't care if the publicist or whatever didn't mind it, because they were on television and they were really the only game in town. But do you have to walk a fine line when you start talking to some of these stars and movie stars and TV people?
I'm gonna say no. I mean, I think at least that's my feeling about it, is the reviews have to be honest, and the reviews are different. That's a different ball game than when we do interviews and stuff. So an interview, we keep that based on what we're talking to the person about, and we keep it neutral. And a review is an honest review,
Right.
We've had social media reactions before that, people get upset, but I I don't know. It probably does affect interviews and things like that sometimes, but that's not something I try to think about.
Right. No, I think you have to be true to what you're doing in order to be able to look at yourself in the mirror when you get up first thing in the morning. Is there a favorite person that you've interviewed so far?
Oh, gosh.
And I know this was another unfair question, but I get it all the time with what's your favorite story. But, I mean, what about an interview that you really wanted to do and you got it? Do you have one of those?
You know, I do. I grew up watching Saved by the Bell. I mean, just, you know, that was probably my first real interest in TV. And so the day that I got to talk to Mark Paul Gosselaar, who's Zach Morris, I mean, I was like, well, that's it. You know, we're done. That's good enough, you know.
Good night, everybody. That kind of thing.
And that was even just a roundtable interview at a TV festival. But still, just an opportunity like that to meet someone you knew in your childhood or knew of when you were a child and had posters of on your wall and everything, right? That to me was big.
I had one too. When REO Speedwagon came here for the Azalea Festival a couple of years ago, I got the opportunity to interview Kevin Cronin, the lead singer. And one of the first records I ever bought was, albums growing up, was their record, You Can Tune a Piano, But You Can't Tune a Fish. And it's been part of my life since I was 16 years old. So getting the opportunity to interview somebody like that, and I geeked out so bad. I brought in records that I had signed and stuff. And he said, "You're not going to be one of those airport stalkers on me, are you?" I said, "No, I just wanted to let you know how big a fan I am of yours." And I think it showed. I was a little kind of geeking out at the time, but it's fun when you get those opportunities to talk to somebody that you've wanted really to talk to and let them know how much their work has meant to your life.
Yeah. And I've had a couple others like that too. It's, early experiences. I went to, I'll put in a plug for, it's my favorite event of the year is a TV festival called the ATX Television Festival in Austin, Texas. It's also where I've connected with a lot of people. But the first time I went was when they had a Gilmore Girls reunion and they brought in cast members. And that's, I'm rewatching that for maybe the 50th time right now, but with my child for the first time.
Oh, that's cool.
11 and she's very invested in it. But, and I'm able to tell her like, hey, I met that person. I interviewed that person. So I was able to interview a lot of those folks when I was there. And that was big for me also.
I've even had the opportunity to interview a couple of Hallmark, Trevor Donovan among them. And I just lean on Sheila and my daughters. What should I ask? What should I ask? My daughter wanted me to ask you this. And so you get that connection with them. Is there somebody you haven't had the chance to interview that you'd like to?
Oh, gosh, yes, lots. Speaking of Gilmore Girls, I'd love to talk to Lauren Graham one day if I ever got the opportunity. That would be amazing. That's the first one that kind of comes to mind, I think. Yeah.
There are a lot of stories written by Ashley Bissette Sumerel online. You've got a lot of stuff online. But there's not much about you online. Graduated from UNCW, 2006, English Language and Literature, Master's at Carnegie Mellon in 2007. Where did you grow up? And where did writing and entertainment grow into being what you wanted to do for a living?
Well, I grew up here in Wilmington. My career is that I teach at UNCW.
Right. Yes, we're going to talk about that too, yeah.
And there's kind of a connection there just in terms of, I guess, the thing I tell people when I decided to start doing this was I like to write and I like to watch TV and I want to write about what's fun to write about. And that's really what it is. I've always been interested in that kind of stuff. I've always been interested in writing. I took, I took writing about film in college and stuff like that. When I was a kid, this is maybe kind of an embarrassing little story, but I remember in elementary school we had to write a paragraph with our spelling words or something like that, and so I made a little Saved by the Bell story, that I just made up myself and stuff. I think it was always kind of there.
Right.
I took a TV productions class too in high school.
Oh, nice.
At Laney.
At Laney High.
And I think some interest kind of got honed there as well.
Right. You went to, you began as a part-time instructor at Cape Fear Community College, went to UNCW, became a full-time lecturer in '09. Was that the plan? Was that what the career was going to be?
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, when I went to Carnegie Mellon to get my master's, that's when I landed on the fact that what I wanted to do was teach. I didn't necessarily know I'd end up back home, but I think a little piece of me always wanted to. And then I got the opportunity. I taught right when I came back. I was actually supposed to go teach at UNC Charlotte, and right before I was time to move, UNCW called and said, we have, something. And so I started part-time there and Cape Fear part-time, doing both.
Right.
But yeah, I would say since, while I was getting my master's, that was the plan, was that I was going to teach. And
at UNCW, you went on and you became a full-time, a senior lecturer, and you teach entertainment related, don't you? Is that the course?
I have.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Unfortunately, it's not something that we're able to offer often. But I've taught it once, and I've prepared it to teach another time that it ended up falling through. Mostly I teach composition courses, literature courses. But yes, I did teach an entertainment and journalism course, which was the perfect, little connection.
I was going to say that's almost a 4-lane highway for you, right?
Yeah.
Cool stuff. Now, I'm an old radio guy. I started in radio when I was 15. So when I see someone has written for Rolling Stone magazine, I just get like, oh my goodness, because Rolling Stone, for those of us in the radio biz, along with broadcasting magazine, those were the two things that you read every week.
Yeah.
How did the freelance career start, and how did Rolling Stone get on your resume?
Well, the freelancing, I mean, it all kind of, the website and the freelancing started together, where I just thought, it was over the summer, and I thought it'd be fun to write about TV. Right. I started a little blog just for myself, just like one of these personal little WordPress things. And as I did that, I started, connecting with people. And getting opportunities that way, just from connections and stuff. And so I did write for a couple of other places as I was, building my own thing. The Rolling Stone story, I mean, this is a story of sometimes you just have to ask. Yeah. Sometimes you just have to jump. And I just happened to, it was right place, right time on, formerly known as Twitter, that the editor over there put out a call for pitches related to television, and send them a message with like a 1-line pitch. And again, Grey's Anatomy lover at heart, I had been just stewing over my feelings about Meredith Grey, quote unquote exiting. She didn't completely exit, but nobody really knew that at the time. I had big feelings about it. So I had an idea, and I sent him that idea with a couple of others. And, he said, love it. Great. Let's do it. So we exchanged some emails and made a plan. And then that happened. Yeah.
Cool. Do you still have the first byline and everything saved?
Yeah. I mean,
hope so.
I printed that article.
Oh, yeah, I would hope so. What was it about? Grey's Anatomy?
Yeah. Okay, so the Rolling Stone, I printed out. First bylines and stuff, I mean, it was, I wrote for a website called TV Goodness, which I have to give a shout out to the women who run that site, because they kind of, taught me a lot. TV Fanatic, shout out to those guys as well. I mean, I learned a lot, writing really recaps and reviews and stuff, the same sort of stuff for both of those sites for a while. God, those archives are long, though. I don't know if I don't remember what was, I don't actually remember what was first, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but it's still so cool. That you had the chance to write for Rolling Stone magazine, because that, to me, that's like on the top shelf of publications in my life. Reading those compositions, reading those stories, and again, that was one that we'd read every week in radio when I was in college, and then when I first got into radio right out of school. When you decided to jump and found Telltale TV. You formed Bissette Media, LLC.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a Harrison Ford in Indiana Jones, and the foot goes down and it lands kind of moment?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think, no, it all started slowly.
Okay.
Started with little personal blog, and, as I was, writing for some of the other sites and learning some things, it sort of started to steamroll into, well, okay, but that makes me want to do this and that, and it was a lot of, well, why not? Took a little bit of the money that I had from freelancing and figured, okay, I can use this,
mm-hmm.
no loss.
Mm-hmm.
I'll buy the, domain name for a website.
Right.
See if I can make that, a little bit of money back. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Just see what happens.
Right.
And so it started that way. It started really slow, and it kept being like, wonder if,
mm-hmm.
what could happen here, and it grew that way. And the LLC, I actually formed later when I realized I have something big here that I need to be able to protect.
Was there a whoa moment along the way as it started to grow and as you started to make started to get a name for Telltale TV?
Man, that's a great question. I mean, probably a few. I remember the first year on New Year's Eve looking at my stats and seeing it break. I don't remember exactly what the number was, but like right before the year changed, I saw it break a certain number of page views, and that's exciting. First time that I was accepted to do a red carpet felt really real.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of those moments. Yeah, I think it's things like that. It's anytime somebody says yes.
Yeah.
Then I feel like, oh, okay, we've done something here, right?
You've said accepted to do a red carpet.
Mm-hmm.
What is there a process? Do you have to apply? Tell me, because I thought it was just like, if you show up, they'll make room for you.
Oh, no. It depends. I've only done a few. I've done a few at the TV festival I mentioned before, and that process is you apply for press credentials to, get a press pass to go to the festival.
Mm-hmm.
And then separately, once you're accepted for that, you apply to do the red carpet.
Oh, okay.
And so they do it based on who they want on their red carpet.
Oh, I got you.
And then I've done red carpets at Paley Fest in LA. And it's the same thing. You actually apply for that festival. They do it based on the individual red carpets that they're having, because they'll have one for, they had a red carpet for Better Call Saul that I got to do, and they had one for Yellowstone, even though there was it wasn't everyone we expected to be on that red carpet that day. But you apply.
That's a different podcast.
That's a whole other thing, right? That's a whole other thing. But yeah, so we applied for, those specific ones, and they say yes or they say no. And then they also, I think people find this interesting, where you're put on that red carpet also matters. They place you where you're placed.
Okay, so what's the strategy? Do you want to be closer to the door? Do you want to be closer to where they get out of the car? What's it like?
You want to be closer to where they're going to start coming down. They usually start with the photographers first, and, their local media or news outlets, things like that, where they're going to be on camera. And then they start coming down, and you want to be as close to those people, to the front, basically, as possible. Because if you've got, I remember seeing Bob Odenkirk coming down for the one that I was there for Better Call Saul,
mm-hmm.
and he came in at the last minute. They were wrapping up soon. He didn't make it all the way down. That's the thing, is they don't always go all the way to the end. So the closer you are,
gotcha,
the more chance you're going to actually speak to the people that are coming down.
Do you want to be near like E.T. and those shows?
Yeah.
You want to be as close to them as possible?
Pretty much, yeah.
Because you figure they're going to stop and talk to them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. Yeah, so you just want to be as close to the big names.
Gotcha.
As you can be.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You became a senior lecturer in 2015, but you became a member of the Critics' Choice Association in 2017 and a Rotten Tomatoes approved critic along the way.
Yes.
Would seem to me that those are big designations for someone who wants to do what you do, even though you call this something that is your kind of a second career kind of thing. Is that true?
Yeah, how do those things happen? application. Again, throw it out there and see if somebody says yes to you. Basically, I saw some folks who were talking about being in the Critics' Choice Association, and I thought, wonder if they would take me. Yeah. And so you apply, and they accepted me. And the Rotten Tomatoes thing, they approached me at some point. I believe I applied for myself, and then and this was a big whoa moment for the website itself, is when they came back and said, you're approved as a critic yourself. Right. But also, we want to make your outlet a Rotten Tomatoes approved outlet.
Yeah, that's cool.
And that's huge. I mean, that's everything.
Talk to me about the magazine you launched in 2023.
Okay, so this is still my small little baby website, right? But that came.
And how do you pronounce it? Number one.
Great question. It's Eulalie.
Eulalie. I thought it was, but I didn't want to mispronounce it and make it look like I didn't do my research.
Right. Both names come from Edgar Allan Poe. I was going with a theme there, so that was what that was about. But it's. For one thing, that was around the time when the writer strikes, the actor strikes were happening, and I was panicking a little because if we don't have TV, don't have anything to write about with writing about TV, and so I, felt like maybe we needed to broaden a bit. And then the other thing was I wanted to be able to write about other things. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be able to write about movies. I wanted to be able to write about books. Again, that goes way back to my first love, to be able to write book reviews and things like that. And so it was really about wanting to broaden the scope, essentially.
Yeah. But it's cool that you've been able to take that stuff, because so many people say, I want to do this, I want to try this, and never do it. Yeah. And then they regret it 5, 10, 20 years later. Is there a difference now? I would imagine there is, but I'm going to ask you, what is the difference now when an Ashley Bissette Sumerel calls somebody and asks to do an interview with somebody as opposed to 10 years ago?
I mean, yeah, I think I get, better responses, certainly than I did at first. I think, I have more connections who know me, who recognize my name, who I've been able to meet in person or, work with in that way. So, yeah, that definitely helps.
And Wilmington being somewhat of a production town, not as big as when we had Iron Man 3 and some of the others, but it still does a good business here. So do you have good connections with the local studios that if somebody comes to town, do you oftentimes get the chance to talk to them?
That's a great question, because no, I do not. Not at all, in fact. It's such a different, I feel like that's such a different world somehow. I'm usually catching interviews and things like that when they're, doing scheduled press and they're starting to, want to promote a new show or a new season. And that's not happening when they're filming. I've tried reaching out a few times for in person, and it's not, something that I usually don't get responses. Or sometimes it's hard to find the info for that kind of stuff when they're here.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And because we've tried, and, if we hear that somebody's going to be in town for shooting something, we'll try to go down and shoot. And, but once you get a Trevor Donovan, or once you get somebody that, and I use Trevor because I've spoken to him several times since he made the Christmas film here for Hallmark. And he's one that if he's got something new, his publicist will call or he'll email me. And so you get those connections, and I'm sure that you have the same kind of list of folks that you call and talk to, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Knowing the publicists, and I mean, you do sometimes make friends with the talent along the way too. Yeah. Every once in a while, and that's certainly helpful.
Now, one thing I did find when I was doing my research on Ashley Bissette Sumerel is you are an avid collector of Wizard of Oz memorabilia. What kind of stuff do you have?
I don't know. I mean, I've got a whole curio in my bedroom of, figurines and statues and things like that. Once you start collecting things too, and people find out, then you start getting more. Right. So I've got a big collection of, just like beautiful, figurines and things like that. And I do have some, some artwork as well. A black and white photo with Judy Garland's signature on it. That's a really prized,
Nice.
Possession that I have. Yeah.
What you fall in love with the film,
Yeah.
see it as a child and love it? What's the genesis of it?
Yeah, I think childhood. I started collecting the stuff in like high school. Just thought it was beautiful to have, and always watched it on Thanksgiving, and felt that was, I don't know, just a nice connection that I had to
It's
it.
kind of cool. I saw
Yeah.
that it was like the last line of something that I read as I was doing research about you here in town. You're an instructor at UNCW. You grew up in Wilmington. You deal with college students now. You have your own family now. When you think about what today's youth is doing when it comes to writing, to me it seems like they don't write enough. Am I right or am I wrong?
They don't write enough in the same way, I think. I feel like there's a lot of texting and things like that where they're maybe writing in those ways more, social media. But no, I don't think they're writing in the same way that people used to.
Do you get a kick when you're instructing somebody and you're trying to get them, and then all of a sudden that light bulb goes off in that young man or young woman? What's that like for an instructor?
It's fun. It's fun when they care and they really want it. It's fun when they're willing to come and ask questions and when they're coming to receive the help. I think, that's what makes teaching worth it, is when you get those, you get one or two every now and again that they really want it and they finally get it and then they're excited about it. And it's joyful.
As a senior lecturer, I imagine that's probably one of those gold moments.
Yeah.
When the light bulb finally goes off in some young man or young woman's mind. And who knows what they're going to do. Maybe they'll write that book in 10 years. You never know. But you had a small hand in flicking that switch. That's kind of neat. I think that streaming has really allowed creativity to blossom. We wouldn't have gotten likely all the Marvel offshoots, all the Star Wars offshoots. But I think a lot of these other productions, like Shrinking, like Landman, may never have been made if it wasn't for all these streaming opportunities that are out there now.
Yeah. I will say this, though, and this is a big, I get riled up about it, anytime we talk about awards and stuff. And the Critics' Choice Awards is the one that I actually am able to participate in. So, again, just the TV side of it. But I get upset at the idea of, I mentioned before, network TV being such a different thing than streaming and cable. I hate that we compare them. I hate that we put network shows up against streaming and cable shows and say, okay, now they're all the same. It's all the same. Let's pick the best. Because, of course, the streaming shows are usually going to win out.
Right.
Because they have, more resources and, fewer episodes and all that kind of stuff. So, that's one thing I have to say is that, yes, they're great, but I feel like it just shoves network TV to the side sometimes. And I wish that was not the case,
How much time a week? You're a senior lecturer, so right now you've got classes going on, but how much time a week do you sit down and watch TV?
That depends. Hour, 2 hours a night, probably. And then if something is coming up that I have to research, if I have to really watch a show to prepare for an interview, or I've got to watch a whole season of a thing before it airs so I can write a review or something like that, then I'm sitting down to binge, or I'm multitasking.
Right.
I'm carrying around a computer, watching it on a computer while I'm doing other stuff. A lot of multitasking when it comes to that sort of thing. Yeah.
Can you enjoy it when you have to watch it for work? That's the same kind of thing for me. I can get away. I used to be able to watch other stations' newscasts when I went to visit a relative. I would sit down and watch it, but right now I don't anymore.
Yeah.
I want to enjoy my TV aside of WECT News, but I want to enjoy my TV now.
Yeah, it's tough because some things I maybe enjoy a little more just because I'm excited to be able to go write about it and write my thoughts down about it. But there are certain shows that if I have to write about it, it means I'm looking for different stuff. It means I'm looking for flaws. I'm looking for what's great too, but it's made me dislike shows that I loved before sometimes. And honestly, when that happens, I just quit reviewing it. I just stop writing about that show.
Really?
It was Modern. Should I say that?
Right.
It was.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
It was Modern Family. I was reviewing Modern Family, and I loved Modern Family until I started trying to pick it apart.
Yeah.
And then I didn't like it anymore, and I thought, this is so sad. Like, I just want to just sit and enjoy it instead of, picking it apart. But yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the show. But I love TV. So, analyzing it, sometimes you see different things, makes it maybe more fun.
Yeah, and there's so much creativity out there now, and people have so many things they can do, and just expound on whatever issue, whatever topic, whatever story they want, and the creativity is just, to me, is marvelous.
Yeah.
And what you can see. What are people looking forward to, or what are you looking forward to giving folks on Telltale TV in the next couple of weeks?
Well, let's see. Severance is out. We do have someone writing about that. Not myself. What I'm going to be writing about, I'm currently writing about Chicago Fire every week. Mm-hmm. When Grey's Anatomy comes back, those are my two sort of staples.
Right.
So those are big ones just for me personally. New things coming out. There's a show called The Hunting Party that's coming out. That looks to be good. Just again, all that network stuff. And then there's a show called Exo Kitty, that one of my writers is really excited about.
Cool.
That, a lot of our readers seem really interested in. It's a Netflix show. Yeah, I mean, if I had a list in front of me, I could give you a good long list.
And there always seems to be stuff coming out.
Yeah.
And that's, network TV for so long was, the new shows are coming in September. You'll get them through, March or April. But now you could get something introduced for 7 or 8 seasons, or 7 or 8 episodes. They could either put it all out there once or have it every Thursday or every Sunday like Landman was.
Yeah. Found is another great one, by the way. For network TV, Found is remarkable.
Oh, cool.
And I had an interview come out today, actually with an actress from Station 19, who Danielle Savra, I'm not sure if I said her name correctly, is going to be on the new episode of Found, or I don't know when this is going to air, but she's going to be on the show, and people are really looking forward to that. That show is great.
Yeah. There's one coming out too that is about the Secret Service and the President of the United States. It's on, I think it's on Paramount Plus. I don't know. I texted my wife. I said, write this down. We're going to watch it because I saw a trailer for it. And I think it's cool because you really can, if you like thrillers, if you like horror, if you like comedy, there's a lot for everybody out there. Ashley Bissette Sumerel is a TV and film critic. She's the editor-in-chief of Telltale TV. Senior lecturer at UNCW. We appreciate you coming in. Thanks for all your time, and thanks for joining us on the One-on-One with John Evans podcast. It's been great having you here.
Thank you. This was so much fun. I appreciate it.
A big thank you to Ashley Bissette Sumerel for finding some time in her busy schedule to sit down for this week's podcast interview. And check out Telltale TV. That's her television and film website. It is telltaletv.com. And also look at her magazine website, too. It's pretty cool. It's Eulalie Magazine, EULALIE magazine.com. Now, before we go, I want to let you know we're up on some new podcast apps this year in 2025. To see that list and to find the links for those apps, just go to this story on our website, WECT.com. And again, as I've asked you for several years, please leave us a rating or a review. We really do care what you think about our interviews. The more feedback we have from friends like you, the higher we'll be listed on those apps, the better chance we'll have of bringing in even more new listeners. I'm John Evans. Thanks for joining us as we kick off Season 9 here on One-on-One.